Made it out the game safe, injury-free. So
this is what we wanted.
What we wanted.
Things in Dallas are spinning out of control, and the chaos around the Mavericks just keeps getting louder. What's been happening behind the scenes is wild, and the public doesn't even know half of it. People have been clowning the team for their rough season, but there's a hidden story that makes all that drama look tiny. A few days ago, we talked about Dallas looking at trading Anthony Davis and possibly blowing up the whole roster. But the last 48 hours dropped bombshells that flipped everything upside down. Word is Nico Harrison tried pushing Anthony Davis to get back on the court even after the medical crew warned him that AD's Achilles was at real risk of snapping. And check this out. New reports say the Lakers were secretly shopping Davis months before the Luka trade even happened. There's a shady double standard going on in Dallas that screams straight negligence. This isn't just a questionable trade. This is full-on organizational chaos. Nico Harrison getting fired wasn't shocking at all. People close to the team say it was about 9 months overdue. With everything going on, how could he not lose the job? And here's the part that had everyone talking.
Why shouldn't you be fired?
Well, one, I think I've done a really good job here, and I don't think I can be judged by the injuries this year. You have to judge from totality, from beginning to end. I did know that Luka was important to the fan base. I didn't quite know it to what level, but really the way we looked at it is, if you're putting a team on the floor that's Kyrie, Clay, PJ, Anthony Davis, and Lively, we feel that's a championship caliber team, and you'll see next year when our team comes back, we're going to be competing for a championship.
Sources told The Athletic that Davis actually wanted to return for last Saturday's game against Washington after he missed 7 games with a calf strain. That twist alone had the whole league raising eyebrows. Dallas went from bad to straight disaster without him, dropping to 3-8 while fans were screaming, "Fire Nico!" louder every night. The pressure was hitting heavy, and that's when Nico started pushing AD to come back early, and that's exactly where everything fell apart. Anytime someone brings up a calf strain, all I can think about is Kevin Durant in the 2019 NBA Finals. KD fought through that same type of injury trying to help his squad, and it cost him big. He ended up tearing his Achilles right there on the biggest stage. That moment showed how far some players are willing to go for their legacy, and honestly, I respect him for putting everything on the line for that 3rd ring. But what's happening in Dallas is a whole different situation. The Mavericks Director of Health and Performance, Johan Biba, went head-to-head with Anthony Davis's own medical team about whether it was safe for AD to return. And according to Tim McMahon's report, the Mavericks medical staff straight up warned them that if Davis stepped on the court too early, he could tear his Achilles. They said it clearly, yet somehow they still wanted him to suit up. That's wild. A torn Achilles isn't just a few games off. It can put a player out for a year and change everything about their future. It's a nightmare injury, the kind that can bench a grown athlete like Anthony Davis for a full year or even longer, and potentially change his whole career forever. And somehow, Nico Harrison was ready to roll the dice on that just to scrape together a couple wins and try to save his job. That's unbelievable. Some people might think this sounds dramatic, but let's be honest, this type of thing happens for real. Look at Kevin Durant's situation back then, and it happened again way too recently. 5 months ago, Tyrese Halliburton was having the playoff run of his life before everything fell apart in the finals between the Pacers and the Thunder. He strained his calf in Game 5, and the team ran every test they could. Mobility checks, strength checks, everything looked okay on the surface.
On Billsboro, the Mavs Director of Health and Performance has thrown up the caution flag. Said, oh, wait. This is a calf strain. Like, we don't need to say out loud the risk you're taking if you're rushing back from a calf strain. And Patrick Dumont, weighing in on these sort of things for the first time in the meeting, said, hey, I'm siding with Johan. I'm erring on the side of caution. Until I see, and I'm speaking to Dumont here, until Patrick Dumont sees clear, convincing medical data indicating there's no risk of aggravating a calf strain or potential catastrophic injury related to it, he's not giving AD the green light.
Tyrese even told reporters before Game 6, "I just had to hear that it was okay. I know the risks." He suited up anyway, fought hard, and pushed the series all the way to Game 7 with everything on the line. But just 7 minutes into that final game, disaster hit. Halliburton went up for a play, landed wrong, and instantly started pounding the floor, crying out in pain. He knew exactly what happened the second it hit him. Torn Achilles, season gone, maybe more. The Pacers later confirmed he'd missed the entire 2025-26 season, and that announcement shook the whole league. Donovan Mitchell jumped on social media, stressing that calf strains aren't something to play with, and Isaiah Thomas warned everyone that the next step, if a calf isn't healed right, is almost always an Achilles tear. Players felt that message heavy because they all know how real that risk is. There's a real connection here, and that's exactly why the Mavericks medical team was straight up stressed out. Calf strains can flip into Achilles tears if you don't let them heal the right way, and the staff knew that better than anyone. They weren't being soft. They had literally just watched Tyrese Halliburton's career take a brutal hit from almost the exact same situation only months earlier. They understood the danger loud and clear, and even with all that, Nico Harrison still kept pushing Anthony Davis to suit up every day. That's when everything started getting wild. Team owner Patrick Dumont had to step in personally.
Every day that goes by, you get closer to the end of Anthony Davis's contract. He's already in his early to mid-30s. He already has a bunch of injury issues. They have to prioritize Cooper Flag.
He overruled Harrison on the spot and backed the medical staff, demanding real proof that Davis wasn't putting his Achilles at risk before giving any kind of green light. Just think about how serious that is. The owner had to stop his own GM from gambling with a star player's career. If AD tore that Achilles at 32, with his injury history, that could have been the end of him as a superstar. Even Pacers GM Kevin Pritchard said after Halliburton's injury, "If I knew he was going to get hurt, I'd sacrifice that game because I care about the kid's future." When it comes to an Achilles tear, there are no do-overs, no second chances, no easy comebacks. But here's where the whole situation takes a turn, and the story gets even messier. That's honestly messed up, and it shocked a lot of people. While all this drama was exploding around AD, new reports dropped showing how differently Nico Harrison was treating Luka Doncic. And the contrast was wild. According to Tim McMahon on the Howdy Partners podcast, Anthony Davis's personal medical crew was actually on the Mavericks' payroll. The team was paying for his doctors, his trainers, everybody. At first, that might not sound too wild since AD is 32 and has a long injury history. But here's the real issue. Luka never got that same treatment. When Luka was in Dallas, the Mavericks refused to cover his personal medical team. And it didn't stop there. Harrison even started firing the trainers and therapists Luka trusted the most. Casey Smith, who had been the director of health and performance for over 20 years, was let go after the 2023 season.
Nico Harrison was fired by the Mavericks yesterday, or what your thoughts were on seeing the news of his firing.
Look, I mean, just city of Dallas, the fans, players, they always have a special place in my heart. You know, I thought I was gonna stay there forever, but I didn't. So they'll always be a special place for me.
Then strength coach Jeremy Oppel and therapist Casey Spangler, two guys Luka wanted to keep, were fired the very next year. Luka even told ESPN, "They got rid of everybody I like." That hit hard. So Luka had to pull money out of his own pocket to keep the people he trusted. His Slovenia strength coach, Angie Mike, his physiotherapist Javier Barrio Calvo, and Real Madrid nutritionist Luke Madras, all paid straight from his own wallet. It painted a picture of a team that wasn't giving their star the support he needed while doing the complete opposite for someone else. Meanwhile, the Mavericks weren't spending a single dollar on Luka's personal staff. And here's the real kicker. They refused to pay for the support team of a 25-year-old generational superstar who literally carried them to the NBA Finals. But somehow, they did cover the full medical crew for Anthony Davis. And the wildest part? AD is a 32-year-old player who only appeared in 14 games after being traded. How does that make sense for any franchise trying to look legit?
Anthony Davis can't be ordinary. He has to be spectacular, because if he's spectacular, averaging 28 and 12, if he did something like that, like he was capable of, and he was available, then Dallas would be winning more games and you wouldn't be in this situation.
Things got even more twisted because Luka's team and the Mavericks staff were constantly clashing about his recovery timelines. When Luka strained his calf, Team director Johan Biba said he'd be ready in 2 to 3 weeks, but Luka's personal doctor said he needed 6. That's a huge difference. Luka even believed the injury came from being rushed back earlier in the season from a heel bruise he was still dealing with. Instead of owning any part of that, Harrison blamed everything on Luka's conditioning, refusing to take responsibility for the miscommunication. So let's be real. With Luka, Harrison didn't trust the player's personal medical team and started firing everyone close to him. But with AD, he went the complete opposite direction and paid for the player's personal doctors, then still tried to pressure him into returning early even after the team's own medical staff warned him not to.
Sorry for Nico Harrison, a good dude, but at the end of the day, you traded Luka Doncic. And if you're trading Luka Doncic, you can't be 3-8 on the season with Anthony Davis already missing 3 games and having minimal impact to the success of the Dallas Mavericks while Kyrie Irving is out injured, while Luka Doncic is averaging 40.
The double standard was loud, and everyone around the league could see it. The pattern is crystal clear. Nico Harrison was willing to risk anybody's health just to chase wins and keep his seat secure. The whole thing looked reckless. Real quick, thank you for watching and supporting NBA Reality. It truly means a lot to the team. If you're enjoying the video, make sure to like it, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. Your support really keeps everything moving. All right, let's jump right back in. Let's rewind for a moment because everything so far has been about what happened after the trade. But what was going on before February makes this entire story even wilder. Behind closed doors, the Lakers and Anthony Davis were already clashing long before the public had a clue. Remember when AD looked frustrated with Darvin Ham during that playoff series against Denver? Well, Brett Siegel from Clutch Points dropped a serious bombshell. He reported that the Lakers were quietly testing the market for Anthony Davis all the way back in December 2024, 2 months before the Luka deal was even on the table. The front office was secretly making calls around the league, trying to see what kind of return they could get for AD. That's wild, especially considering he had just played 76 games and finally looked healthy again. But according to multiple team sources who spoke to Clutch Points, Davis had actually been a growing concern for a while. People around the organization felt the tension building, and it wasn't just about health. There were deeper issues they didn't want getting out publicly. All of this was happening behind the scenes while the rest of the league had no idea anything was going on. He wasn't staying in touch with the team during the offseason, and when training camp rolled around, people inside the building kept describing his conditioning as below average. And this wasn't some one-time slip. It had become a pattern that was straight up frustrating the whole organization.
No comment. I'll never say that because my guy AD said what he needed, and then he was gone the following week. So.
Then came another twist. After the Lakers won the first ever NBA Cup in December 2023, AD's camp started pushing back hard. They were frustrated that Davis was playing huge minutes with almost no real help in the frontcourt. He wanted another big body down low to take some of the physical load off him, but the Lakers didn't make that a priority at all. Instead, the team put their focus on developing Austin Reeves into their third star alongside LeBron and AD, which makes LeBron's tone in that now famous post-elimination interview last year make a whole lot more sense. A team insider told Clutch Points that forcing Davis to keep logging heavy minutes with barely any front-court support had his camp furious. By the time the 2024 to 2025 season was approaching, the tension was already boiling over. AD felt like the Lakers weren't protecting him, while the Lakers felt AD wasn't doing enough to stay in top shape. Both sides were fed up with each other. The whole situation was hanging by a thread. Then comes the twist. When Nico Harrison and the Mavericks caught wind that the Lakers were quietly testing the market for Davis ahead of the 2025 offseason, everything shifted instantly. The Mavericks saw an opening, and that's when all the behind-the-scenes dealings started heating up. Harrison jumped straight on the phone with Rob Pelinka, and that move changed everything. These two go way back from Harrison's Nike days when Pelinka was Kobe Bryant's agent, so the trust was already there. But that same trust ended up costing Dallas in a huge way. According to reports, Pelinka played Harrison like a fiddle during trade talks. He flipped Dallas's own insecurities about Luka Doncic's conditioning right back at them. The first version of the deal actually had the Mavericks landing Dalton Knecht and multiple first-round picks for Luka. That was the early framework. But Pelinka convinced Harrison that Luka's weight and stamina made him too risky as a long-term centerpiece, and somehow, Harrison folded under the pressure. In the end, Dallas traded away Luka and got back Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and just one first-round pick. That's nowhere near fair value. It turned into one of the roughest trades the league has seen in a long time. And honestly, that move alone was enough for Harrison to lose his job. Think about it. The Lakers were already trying to move AD because they had their own concerns about his conditioning. Yet Pelinka took that same storyline, flipped it, and used it to push Dallas into a bargain deal. The Lakers offloaded a player they didn't fully trust anymore and somehow walked away with a generational superstar like Luka, basically at a discount. When you lay everything out, this might be one of the most one-sided trades in modern NBA history. Even the Pau Gasol deal looks calm compared to this, and Memphis at least lucked into Marc Gasol, who became a franchise legend. But this looked like straight-up front office robbery. All right, so let's bring everything to the present day, because every piece of this mess, from Nico Harrison's questionable decisions, to the medical drama, to the pre-trade chaos, leads us right to where things stand right now. Anthony Davis has now missed 7 straight games because of that calf strain, and there's still no clear timeline for when he's coming back. Owner Patrick Dumont is playing it safe, and honestly, that's the only smart move right now. But every extra game AD misses just makes the whole situation look even messier for everybody involved. We already talked about how AD's trade value has basically crashed. One Western Conference exec even told Tim McMahon, "I'm not sure what they can get for Anthony Davis." And that was before anyone knew Harrison had tried pressuring him to return early. Now that the truth is out, other GMs are definitely stepping back. I mean, who's trading for a 32-year-old who's missed 30 of his last 51 games, has 3 more years and $175 million on his contract, and was almost put at risk of a serious Achilles injury just to get him on the floor? That doesn't exactly scream franchise-saving move, and it gets even messier. There's real tension right now between Davis's personal medical team and the Mavericks' doctors. AD's people say he's almost ready to hoop again, but Dallas's staff wants to slow things down. Dumont is siding with the team doctors, which he should, but that decision makes AD feel like he's being held back for no reason. You can't blame him for being frustrated. He's itching to play, watching his squad fall apart game after game while he's stuck on the bench, powerless to help. And now, on top of all that, rumors are heating up that Dallas might actually try to trade him. The whole situation is spiraling again, and everyone is feeling the pressure. It's wild to think back to AD's first game with the Mavericks. That night was electric. He came out locked in, showing Dallas fans exactly what they believed they were getting in return for Luka. For a moment, it really looked like the Mavs were building something serious, maybe even a contender. But then, the injuries started stacking up again, and everything shifted fast. Now the Mavericks can't afford to rush him back, not after seeing what happened to Tyrese Halliburton, and definitely not with a 32-year-old who's battled injuries his entire career. The risk is just too high for everyone involved. But here's the bigger picture. Anthony Davis's whole injury saga is just the latest chapter in a system that's been broken for years. This isn't one bad decision. It's a whole pattern of dysfunction that Nico Harrison put in motion. And when you see how deep the problems run, it's honestly wild that he stayed in the job as long as he did. Everything traces back to Casey Smith, the Mavericks' longtime director of health and performance. The man had been there for 21 years, respected all around the league, loyal to the franchise, and trusted by generations of players. But after the 2023 season, despite all that history, Harrison fired him. That one move set the tone for everything that followed. It was like pulling the first block out of a shaky tower. Once it was gone, everything else started falling apart. And now the Mavericks are stuck paying the price for years of questionable decisions and non-stop chaos. So why did Nico Harrison fire a guy who'd been with the Mavericks for over 2 decades? According to insiders, it came down to one simple thing. Casey Smith was too negative. Translation: he wasn't a yes man. Smith reportedly warned Harrison about player health concerns and conditioning risks, and instead of listening, Harrison showed him the door. From that moment on, the organization never felt the same. That's a major red flag. When a GM fires his longtime medical director just for being straight about injuries, it tells you everything about how he runs things. It wasn't about keeping players safe. It was about protecting his ego. Harrison didn't want honesty. He wanted people who would nod along to whatever he said. After Smith was pushed out, Harrison brought in his own crew. Keith Belton stepped in as the new director of athletic performance, and according to ESPN, he immediately started clashing with Johan Biba. The two were reportedly getting into heated arguments over how to handle Derek Lively's ankle injury, and the tension was getting real. Belton tried pushing Lively through an intense rehab session because he believed the big man would be ready in just a few days. But Biba wasn't buying that at all. He demanded a CT scan, and thank goodness he did. The scan showed a stress fracture in Lively's ankle that ended up keeping him out for over 2 months. If they followed Belton's plan, Lively might have come back way too early and turned that stress fracture into a full-blown break. Imagine losing a young rising center because somebody wanted to rush him onto the court just to look good for a week. That's the kind of reckless decision-making that defined the whole Harrison era. And this is the stuff that's been brewing behind the scenes in Dallas for years. The results are ugly, and they speak loud all by themselves. Only 3 Mavericks played more than 57 games last season. Kyrie Irving's season ended with a torn ACL. Anthony Davis barely suited up before going down with an abductor strain, and now he's only managed to appear in 5 games this year. The pattern isn't bad luck, it's a system that's been falling apart from the inside. Derek Lively's been hurt too, and the team is sitting at a rough 3-9 record. You simply can't win in the NBA when your whole medical setup is falling apart, especially when your roster is built around stars who have long injury histories. You can't keep players healthy when you're firing the people they trust and swapping them out for yes-men who only tell the front office what it wants to hear. And you definitely can't build chemistry or confidence in your locker room when players are watching this kind of dysfunction unfold right in front of them. That's the type of stuff that makes a squad fall apart from the inside. That's exactly why firing Nico Harrison was the right move, not just because of the Luka Doncic trade, even though that alone was enough to get him fired, but because the whole structure he built around player health and performance was shaky from day one. He pushed out experienced pros who actually knew their craft, brought in people who couldn't work together, and kept overriding his own medical team just to protect his image. So where does Dallas go from here? Honestly, it's tough to picture this story ending smoothly. The best-case scenario is Anthony Davis finally returns healthy, stays on the floor, and actually helps the Mavericks push forward, maybe even sneak into the playoffs if he can look dominant again. If that happens, maybe Dallas can rebuild his trade value and flip him for a decent package in the summer. But that's a whole lot of ifs. The more realistic path? A D comes back, but the Mavericks keep struggling. The roster's thin, the chemistry feels off, and every loss stacks more pressure on the front office. By February, Dallas might be forced to trade Davis for whatever they can get, just to start resetting the entire organization around a new direction. Everything is hanging on what happens next, and the clock is ticking loud. Cooper Flag, here's the tough reality Mavericks fans gotta face. Even if Anthony Davis somehow stays healthy and starts putting up full-on All-NBA numbers again, the damage is already done. He never wanted to leave Los Angeles in the first place, and he only ended up in Dallas because of a trade for a superstar who's now leading the league in scoring for his old squad. On top of that, the Mavericks almost risked his whole career by trying to rush him back on the court. That's wild. So why would AD commit long-term to that? Why would he sign an extension with a franchise that handled things like this? If he's not planning to stay, then keeping him around just delays the inevitable. At this point, the writing is right there on the wall. Anthony Davis is probably getting traded. But here's the real problem. Who's lining up for a 32-year-old star who struggles to stay healthy and still has a massive contract that runs deep into his 30s? Dallas is stuck in a tough spot, and the situation keeps spiraling more and more out of control every week. This whole thing is unreal, from the messy trade to the non-stop medical drama. It feels like Dallas can't catch a break no matter what they do. But what about you? What's your take on all this? Do you think the Mavericks can still turn this around, or is it time to hit that reset button completely? I really want to know how you see it. So drop a comment below. Seriously, I'm interested in your thoughts. And thank you so much for watching Ball Stories. If you love wild NBA drama, behind-the-scenes chaos, and deep dive breakdowns, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these stories coming. And don't go anywhere. There are plenty of other videos waiting for you that'll blow your mind just like this one. Appreciate you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.